Hello, Sangha. Today is Friday, November 11th, 2016. So I've been at home today. It's Veterans Day today, and so there's no classes at the university. And so I did a home hermitage day, which I'm really grateful for and have needed. I think needed a lot. And so I got a chance to go for a walk with Dawn in the beautiful woods that we have here, and to get some rest and to do some extra sitting and some chanting and some study and some napping and like that. And I feel very lucky that I was able to do that today. I know a lot of people don't have the chance. I usually don't have the chance, but today I did, and so sally forth. And as I did so, as I engaged in my sitting and liturgy and different stuff that I do, I can feel heaviness in the community and in the world. And also, at the same time, there's a certain group of folks that have an elation and feeling really vindicated and very affirmed, and a whole lot of in between. And so I thought I'd speak a little bit about my take on what's going on here. And probably more importantly, what I think we ought to do. It seems to me that if you look, a little bit under the hood of the traditional conservative party, you'll find that it's not just one homogeneous group. In fact, the conservative movement, as we all know, is actually very fractured. There's a lot of differences of view in the Republican Party and the Conservative Party about what they're about. And the traditional mainline conservative folks lost big time in this election. Trump proved them all wrong. So they were out, right? But if you look at the conservative movement, you've got, at least the way I see it, you've got one group of folks, which is the intense religious, ultra-conservative, evangelical, Bible kind of people, right? And they're in the conservative movement because of social values. Okay, and then there's another group of people that are there for money, and they're there because of business and economy and entrepreneurial stuff and jobs and money. And those are you might think they're kind of strange bedfellows, and they kind of are. Sometimes those different groups of people overlap, and there's some people that are both, but not always. Not always at all. But they kind of fit in that tent together, more or less. And then, but what a lot of people maybe don't know or haven't thought of, I don't know, is that the Liberal Party or the Democratic Party is like that too. It's also a fractured thing. See, so like you've got your traditional, like, union member, factory working, steel mill, Jeep plant working, union member kind of guy, okay? And that's a union reason to be in the Democratic Party. And, traditionally you've got the balance of the union folks against the owners of the industry. See, pugs, shush. But that's not all. There's also on that other camp, there's the social liberals. So, excuse me, the people that are, people that are over in that they're in the Democratic Party, the Liberal Party, not so much because they're a union member, tradesperson or something like that, but they're there because of their views on forward liberal social actions, marriage equality and that kind of thing. And so sometimes those people are comfortable together and sometimes they're not, and sometimes they overlap and sometimes they don't. See? And so they both get, so really there's two Democratic parties and there's two Republican parties, or at least before Trump this was true. I don't know what it is now, but I think this is what it was, okay? And so what happened is Uh, Part of what happened here is that the union folks, okay, the folks that are about jobs and about having a entrance into middle class life and that kind of stuff, they moved over to Trump's way, you see. And the now the social liberal folks did not. Obviously, they stayed. You know, their preferred candidate probably would have, maybe been Bernie or like that. But they didn't go over to Trump's way. But I think what did happen was that a whole lot of these union jobs kind of people moved over, and a lot of the establishment conservative Republican people kind of held their nose and went that way. See, because he kind of appealed to the our factories are all shutting down. There's no jobs here anymore, and he was very direct about that. Now you can make case, do case making for Hillary saying similar things, but the perception was that she's just the status quo. So now what to do? See, so now this thing has moved all over the place, and it's very confusing. See, I know that most of my friends are liberal, and most of the Sangha is liberal, and I don't know how many people in the Sangha know a whole bunch of conservative people, but I do. I know quite a few, and so I'd like to share some perspective from some of those folks, because it's kind of unhealthy to me how siloed everything has gotten. So one of the things that the conservative friends that I have that are very happy about Trump's victory, and certainly we have disagreements on things, but the thing that they express to me is that they really feel like this business of jobs and the economy and getting the factories working again and all that, they were convinced, they were persuaded pretty readily that Donald is going to do that. And they're not primarily motivated by hatred. Now, there are some, I'm sure. I mean, we know. I mean, if the Ku Klux Klan endorses you, it says something, okay? That's for sure. That ought to be concerning. But the fact is that in the same way that a lot of the religious, let's say a lot of the really, really intense Bernie Sanders supporters kind of maybe held their nose and went for Hillary, it's the same kind of thing where a lot of people would, okay, the Ku Klux Klan likes our guy, whatever, but he's going to get our jobs back. Most of them are, in fact, not. Just hate-filled, terrible people that are just waiting to destroy you from behind a dark alley or something. Some might be. That could be. And I'm saddened by all the things that I see in my various social media feeds about hate crimes and stuff happening now. But the fact is, and this is a kind of a bitter pill to swallow, is that I know most of my liberal friends want to look at anyone who voted for Trump, and they have utter incomprehension of it. Can't understand why the person voted, or it's just got to be that they're just filled with hate and ignorance. And I guess I'd like to say that, listen, the first thing we need to do, wherever you land on this spectrum, and it's a broad one, but wherever you land on the spectrum, the thing that makes America America, in my view, one of the things, is that we have space for different points of view and the ability to, hopefully, to engage meaningfully in dialogue. Now that just fell apart. This was the most ridiculous excuse for political debates. I mean, it was terrible. I mean, I would feel physically ill after watching those debates between Hillary and Donald, because they were just, both of them were, I mean, it's just the tenor and the tone and the feeling and the vibe of this whole thing was just repugnant, to me, anyway. And so there's a whole lot of just this kind of thing going on. And one thing that I know from my practice is that we all suffer. Okay, every human being going experiences suffering, and every human being wishes to alleviate suffering. And so if we are encountering suffering, it's important to realize that that is a place of commonality and a place of connection. See, so if we have some people that whose views we don't accept, that's totally fine. And the fact, we need to be vocal about our positions and about why we feel the way we do, and we should stand up for things that need standing up for, clearly. And at the same time, we should, in my view, we should realize that people who might fall on completely the opposite side of that perspective are also human beings that also suffer and have pain. See, the first noble truth applies to everybody, and so does the second, third, and fourth, right? And so, the qualities of the Buddha, generosity is the first one that comes to my mind, the paramitas. What does it mean to be generous in this? Even in this, what does it mean to be generous in this? To have a generous heart. What does it mean to keep our moral discipline together? I mean, one of the things that gets expressed a lot in the Chinese classics is that when you are in adverse circumstances, you can always use them to perfect your character. Okay? You can always use adverse circumstances to develop and perfect your own personal character and your quality. See? So how is it that we can use, if we're feeling, like a lot of us are, that this has not gone the way we wanted or hoped or would like it to have, how can we use this to actually expand our sense of generosity and expand our sense of our practice of character development, our moral discipline? Patience, we got plenty of chances to work with that, okay? Personally, one of the things that just makes me crazy is this, the folks who just completely write off what seems to me to be undeniable science about the environment and what's going on, and yet they're very intelligent, credible people saying it's just not true. Okay, that gives me lots of chance to work with patients. Maybe there's something I'm not seeing, maybe there's something they're not seeing. How can I engage with this? I know that in my head, as soon as I just say you're just fools and idiots, I lock them in a box in my head, and I can't communicate anymore, and we're done. And that's a problem. That's a big problem. Democracy requires conversation. Joyful effort. Plenty of opportunities for joyful effort. And let's keep the joy in it. It's important, even when things are going horribly. I mean, it's astonishing. I can remember times when, for example, we had Isabella in the pediatric oncology space at Cleveland Clinic, and there's families there and in terrible personal tragedy for their families and for their loved ones. And there's a way that humor can show up and does show up, even in that kind of situation. Joyful effort, an effort it will take. Concentration. The world will always disappoint you. The world is impermanent. As long as we think that things are always going to be a certain way, we're on the hook. Don't take it. Keep your mind concentrated. Keep yourself where you are. It's only in that way that we'll be able to actually engage meaningfully. See? Wisdom is absolutely necessary. Because really, it's seeing into that non-dual Dharma, seeing into the absolute truth and the relative truth and how they arise and play and what things really are. That's what really breaks this whole thing open. This stuff is not abstract. The Buddhist practice that we share together, the training of Zen that we are so lucky to have, it's not an abstract thing. If you can't figure out how it applies right now, then you've got a lot more work to do. And do it, because the world needs you to show up that way. I need you to. Skillful means. What is the skillful thing to do? Demonizing is usually not one of them. Let me just be bolder. It's not. Even the most twisted, karma-filled people doing the most reprehensible acts are still worthy of compassion and love as we correct, as we say no. How do you skillfully do that? How do I skillfully do that? And the wrapper of it all is the unshakable vow. The vow that is timeless. The vow that is beyond any particular expression of yin and yang and things working or not. What's the vow that really is not shakable? How do you realize it? How do I realize it? Well, it has to do with community. It has to do with connecting with the teacher. It has to do with connecting with the practice. But ultimately, it has to do with you and me not turning away. So let's take it up. And when it's a heavy lift, just remember that this is what the practice is for. I hope you take up your daily liturgy. I was simply following along and making some comments on the qualities of the guides of our lineage and the Buddha himself. Do your own. Take it up. Sit strong. And we'll see you in the Zendo. Please come together. Please practice together.